The morning air at Fort Bragg was thick with humidity and testosterone. Boots slammed the pavement in unison. Shouts echoed across the training yard as rows of fresh recruits pushed through morning drills. The scent of sweat, steel, and sunblock saturated the field. Private First Class Naomi James kept her chin up and eyes forward. Her pulse thudded beneath her collarbone, but she didn't flinch as the drill sergeant barked instructions. She had trained for this, dreamed of this, bled for this, but her skin made her a target long before she ever put on the uniform. She was the only black woman in her platoon. The stares didn't surprise her anymore. The whispers after lights out. The passive-aggressive jokes dressed up as military humor. She let it roll off her back, until Sergeant Harold Hawk McAllister made it personal. It happened during uniform inspection. Naomi stood at attention, uniform crisp, boots gleaming. McAllister, a retired Marine turned training officer, stalked down the line, inspecting each recruit with the cold detachment of a man who'd seen too many wars and buried too many friends. When he reached Naomi, his eyes paused on her forearm. Her sleeve was slightly raised, revealing a tattoo just above her wrist, a tiny black feather surrounded by 3 initials, AJE. He frowned. "What's this?" he asked, voice edged in disdain. "A tattoo, Sergeant," Naomi replied evenly. "I know it's a tattoo. I asked what it stands for." Naomi hesitated. "It's personal, sir." He scoffed. "You bring a mark into this unit. Private, it becomes our business. Looks like one of those prison tats." "What? Gang affiliation? Deadbeat X?" Snickers broke out down the line. Naomi's stomach tightened. Her fingers curled slightly at her sides. "No, Sergeant," she said, voice tight. "It honors my brother." "Oh, what branch was he in?" Naomi's throat tightened. "He wasn't." McAllister raised an eyebrow. "Then he doesn't belong on your skin." He turned away before she could respond. Naomi stared straight ahead, jaw clenched so tightly her teeth ached. That night in the barracks, she didn't speak. Not when her bunkmate made another joke about hood girl tattoos. Not when someone played gunshot sounds on their phone behind her. Instead, she took out the small, weathered journal she carried and opened to the page where she'd written his name 100 times. Aaron James Edwards, her little brother, 14 years old, when he was gunned down on their front porch by a neighbor who mistook his hoodie and Walkman for a threat. No charges filed. A tragic misunderstanding, they called it. Naomi had vowed then she'd wear his initials into every place that once tried to erase him, into rooms that never saw him as more than a stereotype. She would carry him through the very system that had failed him, until that system looked her in the eye and saluted him back. The next day, during live ammo drills, McAllister barked orders behind her with particular venom. "James, faster. You think bullets slow down for sentimental ink? Move." She moved. Not for him, but for Aaron. 3 weeks passed. Naomi rose quietly to the top of her unit in marksmanship, tactical strategy, and code recall. She was the first to memorize every NATO phonetic chart, the first to finish the obstacle wall solo. Still, McAllister never acknowledged her, never praised, only glared. During unit evaluations, she placed second out of 52. The man ahead of her had a military father, a 4-year ROTC record, and family connections. But on the final day of boot, everything changed. An emergency drill simulation. The platoon was split into teams and ordered to respond to a staged hostile incursion scenario on the North Training Field. Each team had a designated commander. Naomi's group was led by the ROTC favorite. But 15 minutes in, he panicked, froze up under the simulated mortar blasts, issued contradictory commands. Naomi stepped forward. "Evacuate perimeter south, set defensive triangle, and reposition radio contact behind cover," she ordered. Her voice cut through the confusion like a blade. The others obeyed instinctively. She rerouted every single squad, stabilized a wounded recruit with a makeshift splint, flanked the mock enemies, and neutralized the lead before anyone else crossed the perimeter. When the final buzzer sounded, the base colonel, who'd been observing from the tower, descended the steps slowly. "Who led this team?" he asked. Naomi stepped forward. The colonel's gaze flicked to McAllister, who stood with arms folded, expression unreadable. "Exceptional command," the colonel said, "and unshakable discipline under fire. I expect we'll see you in officer training, James." Applause rippled from her unit. This time, it wasn't sarcastic. McAllister said nothing. Not then. Not during the commendation ceremony later that evening. Not even when she was called to the stage to receive her marksmanship award. But the moment that would haunt the camp forever happened 2 days later, during the closing salute. All units stood in formation. McAllister addressed them for the final time. His voice was firm, face stoic. "You came in as recruits," he said. "Some of you, barely holding it together. Some of you, I didn't think would last a week." He walked the line slowly. "But a few of you reminded me that strength isn't just about push-ups or barked orders. Sometimes, it's about knowing exactly who you are, no matter who tries to strip it away." He stopped in front of Naomi. "The tattoo," he said. She held his gaze. "I looked up the initials," he added quietly. "Aaron James Edwards. I found the case." Naomi's spine stiffened. "I was wrong," McAllister said, voice hoarse. "You don't wear it for attention. You wear it for memory, for defiance, for legacy." He stepped back. Then, he raised his hand. A full salute, in front of the entire base. Every head turned. Every breath held. Then, one by one, every recruit in her platoon saluted too. Naomi's lips parted, but no sound came. In that moment, Aaron stood beside her. She could feel him, just for a second. She nodded once, eyes shining. That night, McAllister slipped a letter under her bunk mattress. No words, just a photo. A black man in uniform, Vietnam era. Handwritten note on the back. "My father. I never told anyone. Not even the Corps. I see him in you." Naomi folded it gently and placed it inside her journal. The next morning, she reported for officer candidate training. As she stepped into the strategy room, a message awaited her from the colonel. Special assignment, review needed. Inside the file, a confidential packet marked with red initials. Subject, Edwards, AJ, and a line scrawled at the bottom. Incident flagged for review. Witness statement recently unsealed. Possible cover-up. Naomi's heart stopped. She reached for the intercom to call the reviewing officer, then saw the name on the file's witness statement. Harold McAllister, age 16, eyewitness. She stared at the date. He was there. He'd seen it, and never said a word. Naomi picked up her badge. She knew what she had to do. Naomi sat in the officer strategy room, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead barely masking the pounding in her ears. Her fingers trembled as she flipped through the unsealed document. Witness statement, Harold McAllister, age 16. Her eyes scanned every word. The handwriting was shaky, juvenile, but clear. It described a rainy night. A heated argument outside a Baltimore row house. A teenage boy, Aaron, on the porch, holding a Walkman and a hoodie up to block the rain. A neighbor yelling. A gun. A flash. And then silence. The statement ended abruptly. It was never submitted to court. Stamped in bold. Withheld, confidential internal review only. Naomi sat back in her chair, stunned. Her breath caught in her throat. He saw it. McAllister saw the shooting. And for 14 years, he said nothing. The folder listed the investigating officer. Naomi recognized the name. A retired Baltimore detective now working private security in North Carolina. She wasted no time. By midday, Naomi was on a bus headed into Durham. She didn't call ahead. Didn't want anyone alerted. She showed up outside a rundown office strip with nothing but the file and her ID. The man at the front desk was old, heavy-set, tired. "Detective Collins?" she asked. He looked up. "Used to be," he said. She placed the folder in front of him. His eyes narrowed. "Where'd you get this?" "I'm Lieutenant Naomi James." "That was my brother, Aaron Edwards." He stared at her for a long time, then sighed and motioned her inside. His office was stacked with unopened boxes and faded case files. He poured himself a glass of water and sat heavily. "That case, that was one of the worst," he said, "and one of the dirtiest. I was told to close it." "Quick." "By who?" Naomi asked. He didn't answer, just handed her a yellowed folder. Inside, suppressed ballistics tests, neighborhood complaints against the shooter, and another statement. This one typed. Harold McAllister, protected minor, known to shooter. Witness discouraged from giving additional details. Parental request filed to seal testimony. Naomi's hands went cold. "Discouraged?" she repeated. "I don't know what they told him, or who leaned on his family. But that kid was scared out of his mind," Collins said. "Who protected him?" Collins hesitated. "Your brother's case was buried by more than just neglect. The shooter's brother was high up in the city's prosecutor's office. And he had friends. One of them ended up on a military vet transition board years later. Her mind whirled. You're saying McAllister's silence wasn't just fear. It was orchestrated. Collins nodded slowly. Naomi stood, every nerve burning. Where is McAllister now? Still on base. Word is, he's been trying to transfer. Maybe he knows something's coming. She left without another word. Back at the base, she walked straight to the personnel office. McAllister's name was listed under transition review, pending civilian clearance. He was scheduled to leave in 3 days. She requested a hold on the clearance. Denied. She pushed further, requested a formal hearing with the JAG office. Internal ethics review. Legal suspension on the grounds of obstruction in a civilian felony case. They said her request had to go through a chain of command, one she didn't trust, so she went to someone else. Colonel Davis, the same man who had recognized her during the field drills, the one who handed her the assignment packet. He listened, said little, but the next morning, McAllister's clearance was frozen. She thought it was over. Until that night. She came back to her bunk to find her locker open. Nothing stolen, except one thing. Her journal, the one with Aaron's name. Her notes, her record of everything she'd discovered. And in its place, a folded piece of paper. No signature, just 3 words scrawled in pen. Leave it buried. She stepped back, pulse racing. Then her phone buzzed. An email alert from a military server. Confidential. Video file unlocked. Testimony file 4. Attached was a secure link. She clicked. A grainy video loaded. A younger McAllister, sitting stiffly in front of a flag. Eyes nervous. Voice cracking. He didn't have a gun. He was reaching for his headphones. I told them. They said, just forget it. That it wasn't my problem. That it would ruin everything. The video cut off. She sat frozen. There was no timestamp. No metadata. Nothing. She tapped to play it again, but it was gone. Link expired. The file wiped. She checked the sender. No reply address. No trace. Whoever sent it wanted her to see it. Once, Naomi's breath trembled. She had proof, but no copy. A whistleblower, but no face. And McAllister? Gone. His quarters were empty. No forwarding file. No trail. Just a sealed envelope slipped under her door an hour later. You're not ready for what comes next. Inside was a single photograph. Aaron and McAllister in the same youth boxing club, smiling, side by side. Naomi stared at it, tears stinging her eyes. McAllister wasn't just a witness. He was Aaron's friend, and he had vanished. She picked up her phone and dialed the last person she ever thought she would. The colonel picked up after one ring. He's running, she said, and someone's helping him. There was silence. Then the colonel's voice dropped. Lieutenant James, you're not just looking into your brother anymore. Naomi's voice was ice. I know. Naomi didn't sleep that night. The photo sat on her desk beneath the overhead light. 2 smiling boys, maybe 11 or 12, one with a navy hoodie and a chipped front tooth, Aaron. The other, unmistakably, a young Harold McAllister. They had trained together, grown up on the same block. And somehow, after Aaron was killed, McAllister never once mentioned their connection. Naomi searched every database she could access from the base network. McAllister's service record, public school enrollment archives, youth programs in Baltimore from 2004 to 2009. Aaron and McAllister appeared on 3 rosters together. Same boxing club, same summer school, same church youth retreat. They weren't just neighbors. They were best friends. And McAllister had vanished without a word. By sunrise, Naomi had exhausted the base's channels. McAllister had been granted temporary leave, sanctioned under mental health stress protocol, approved just 12 hours earlier. The signature on the approval? Colonel Davis. Naomi stormed into the colonel's office. You signed it. He looked up slowly, calm, too calm. He requested evaluation leave. I had no legal reason to deny it. You told me we'd hold him. I said we'd freeze his transition, he replied. I never said he wouldn't be protected. Naomi's hands balled into fists at her sides. You're protecting a man who helped cover up a murder. I'm protecting an asset who might be the only living witness to something much bigger. She stared at him. What aren't you telling me? The colonel tapped a manila folder on his desk. You're smart, Lieutenant. Too smart to think this ends with a scared teenager and a crooked cop. This case touches deeper. Police, prosecutors, even Veterans Affairs. And now it's touched the military. He pushed the folder toward her. She opened it. Inside, a map of Baltimore with red pins. Each one marked the location of an unsolved shooting between 2005 and 2010. Next to it, a list of case numbers, each linked to victims aged 13 to 18. All black, all male, 16 cases, 12 linked to the same responding officer, Detective Ray Moore, the same man who let Aaron's killer walk free. Naomi's pulse pounded. This is a pattern. Yes, and someone buried it for years. She stepped back. So what happens now? The colonel hesitated. McAllister was part of a juvenile witness protection list tied to Moore's investigations. All of the children were labeled secondary observation profiles. Someone thought they might talk. Naomi felt a cold wave wash over her. Secondary observation, like they were targets. The colonel's silence was answer enough. Naomi closed the folder. I need to find McAllister. He's under protection. They won't let you near him. Then I'll go through them. The colonel leaned forward. There's a safer way to break this. Naomi narrowed her eyes. Why are you helping me? I'm not. I'm giving you a choice. Walk away or dig deeper. But know this. The more you dig, the closer you get to men who don't play by rules. Not legal ones. Not military ones. And they already know your name. She turned without responding. That night, she opened her laptop to a restricted government portal her mentor had given her access to months earlier. She keyed in a code she was told never to use. Deep Records Archive, testimonies locked / unfiled. She typed in Aaron Edwards. Nothing. Then Harold McAllister. Still nothing. Then Detective Raymond Moore. A file popped up. More_confidential_id_redacted.mp4. She clicked. A video began to play. Grainy, timestamp 2016. Moore sat across from a man off camera. His voice was gravel, aged and tense. You know what they wanted. Silence. I gave them silence. I didn't want to, but they made it clear. Kids like that. They were threats. One word from them, and whole plans crumble. The tattoo girl's brother? He saw something. Something he wasn't supposed to see. Not just the gun. The meeting. The man behind it all. The audio cut off. Naomi stared at the frozen screen. The man behind it all. She rewound it, twice. Tried enhancing the audio. No success. Then she noticed something. In the reflection of a glass cabinet behind Moore. A shadow. A figure in uniform. Military. Decorated. She screenshot the frame. Zoomed in. One detail stood out on the figure's dress coat. A ribbon pin with 4 vertical red bars. Only one person at her base wore that configuration. Colonel Davis. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unlisted number. You're getting too close. Don't trust the ones giving you folders. Ask your mother what happened the night before Aaron died. Naomi froze. Her mother? She picked up the phone and dialed. Mom, I need to ask you something. That night, the night before Aaron, before it happened, did anyone come to the house? There was silence. Then, softly, yes. Who? Her mother's voice cracked. Colonel Davis. Naomi's knees buckled. He came to speak with your father. Said he had a job offer for Aaron. A mentorship. Something about a veterans youth program. He wanted to take him somewhere the next day. What happened after? Your father said no. They argued. Davis left angry. The next night, Naomi covered her mouth. The phone slipped from her hand. Colonel Davis hadn't just been watching. He had been planning. Aaron was never a bystander. He was the target. Naomi turned toward the window just as headlights flashed across the building. A black SUV pulled up to her barracks. 3 figures stepped out. Military police. But not base patrol. Federal uniforms. One of them held a sealed warrant. The other carried a set of zip ties. And the third? A woman in a dark trench coat, holding Naomi's journal. She hadn't found it after all. They had it the whole time. A knock pounded at the door. Lieutenant James, a voice called, calm but cold. You need to come with us. Naomi stepped back, heart pounding. The window was still open. One way out. One last chance to expose everything. She grabbed the flash drive, the screenshot, and the photo of Aaron and McAllister. Then she ran. Naomi ran through the rear exit of the barracks, her boots pounding across gravel and dirt. The night air was cold, slicing against her cheeks as adrenaline overrode everything. Fear, exhaustion, even doubt. She didn't know where she was going, only who she was running from, and what she was running toward. In her pocket was the flash drive. In her other hand, the photo of Aaron and McAllister. She clutched them like lifelines, because that's exactly what they were. She made it to the edge of the base before they spotted her again. Floodlights flaring behind the SUV, radios crackling. She ducked into the trees, leapt over a drainage ditch, and cut through the fence she'd seen mechanics use for smoke breaks. Her legs screamed, but she didn't stop. She didn't stop until she reached the edge of town and slipped through the side entrance of a 24-hour bus station. Inside, she found a phone booth with an internet terminal. She plugged in the flash drive. It asked for a code. She tried the date of Aaron's death. Invalid. She tried her mother's birthday. Invalid. Then she tried Aaron's birthday. It opened. Inside, a folder titled Project Reentry, Youth Filter List. The files were shocking. Government grants linked to a quiet, early recruitment program, targeting low-income Black neighborhoods for future enlistment. Mentorship programs disguised as military outreach. But they weren't just mentoring kids. They were identifying who could be useful and who might be disruptive. The disruptors? Labeled unstable and marked for surveillance. Aaron's name was on the list, along with dozens of others. The worst part? Many of them were dead. Shot. Arrested. Accidents. Gang altercations. Wrong place, wrong time. And at the top of the list of coordinators? Colonel James Davis. She downloaded everything, backed it up to a private server, then sent copies to two people, a federal journalist she trusted from a wrongful conviction conference, and the legal advisor at the National Veterans Justice Network. She wrote one sentence beneath the attachments. "This is the truth they buried with my brother." She hit send. Then she walked to the counter and bought a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C. They caught her 2 blocks away, arrested her for unauthorized access of restricted military systems and obstruction of federal investigation. She didn't resist. She'd already done what she came to do. Inside the interrogation room, Colonel Davis stood across from her, face stone cold. "You think you're a hero?" he asked. "No," Naomi said. "I think I'm my brother's sister." He slammed the table. "You just threw away your career." "No," she said. "You just started the end of yours." 2 hours later, every file she'd sent hit the inboxes of national media. It took 36 hours for the world to respond. First, the journalist broke the story, Project Reentry, how a military program profiled and silenced Black youth. Then the Veterans Justice Network called for hearings. Then came the subpoenas. And then, Colonel Davis was placed under investigation. McAllister resurfaced. He walked into the federal court building with a worn hoodie, trembling hands, and a prepared statement. He told them everything. How he was pressured to stay silent. How he was offered protection and opportunity in exchange for silence. How Aaron's death wasn't just a mistake, but a cover-up in a much darker system. Naomi watched from the gallery. He couldn't meet her eyes. But when he finished, he turned toward her and saluted. This time, not as an officer, but as a man making peace. The charges against Naomi were dropped. The base issued a formal apology. Congress launched a full investigation into Project Reentry, and several military officials, judges, and police officers were suspended or indicted. But Naomi didn't return to base. She didn't want medals. She wanted purpose. 6 months later, she opened the doors of the Aaron J. Edwards Legal and Leadership Institute, a sanctuary for youth from targeted communities. There, they would learn the law, not fear it. They would speak their truths, not bury them. At the grand opening, dozens of kids showed up. One of them, a quiet boy with wide eyes and nervous energy, pulled her aside. "They say you stood up to the army," he said. She smiled. "No, I stood up for my brother." He looked down at her tattoo, the feather, the initials. Then he showed her his wrist. A tiny drawing. A feather. "Can I wear one too?" he asked. Naomi's throat tightened. "You already are," she said. "Every time you speak. Every time you walk through a door they said wasn't made for you." The crowd gathered outside. Reporters raised cameras. But Naomi didn't face them. She stood behind the podium, facing the students, facing the future. And when she spoke, her voice was clear. "I was taught that some battles are fought on the field and others in silence. Some use bullets. Some use secrets. But the loudest victories come when you fight for someone who no longer has a voice." They applauded. Some cried. And as the sun began to set, a letter was handed to her by one of the coordinators. It was unsigned. Inside was a folded paper. Just one line, scribbled in the same handwriting as before. "You stopped me, but I wasn't the only one." And beneath it, a list of 5 names. each followed by a title: Brigadier General, Judge, Senator, Private Defense Contractor, Vice President of Operations, Veteran Resource Foundation. Naomi stared at the list. One name was circled: Rhonda K. Wexley, Judge, Federal District Court. She turned the paper over. There was an address and a courtroom docket number. Case number 2884 RKW, sealed record. The last name on the case? Edwards, Aaron. Naomi's breath caught. They said his case was closed, but someone was still keeping it sealed. Someone powerful. She looked back at the students, back at the feather on her wrist. She didn't need permission. She had purpose. And now she had a new case. Her brother's real one. Because justice didn't end with one name being cleared. It ended when no more names had to be. And Naomi James wasn't finished yet. Not even close. The end.